Welcome to Motivational Monday. This is Fed Zach, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. Today, I want to discuss how Starbucks can teach us about revitalizing ourselves. But before we start, make sure to smash the like button, share, and do subscribe. All right, so here goes. Now, I can take this as far back as my teens, and I love to read business magazines. And one of my first instances of looking at a person that revitalized a business was Lee Iacocca. Chrysler was having a really hard time at the moment, and he came up with an idea of something called the minivan. They kind of saw that the station wagons of the time had a certain limitation in terms of giving that extra space for 3 to 4 kids, and they came up with this concept of the minivan, and we see it today. And then later in probably around the 2000 era, we came up with the Suburban, and the Suburban started coming up with traction, but it first started with a minivan. And if you guys could go back to when Steve Jobs revitalized Apple in the early 2000s, that was another instance of the company almost going broke, and Ross Perot actually saving, which was a former candidate, also a businessman that was going up as a candidacy to become the president, and he didn't win, but he sure won with investing in Apple. Now, these type of stories happen and happen again, and the reason is very simple. We call it the product lifecycle in marketing. Initially, there's just a product or a new service comes out to the market, and there's not a lot of users, right? It's either people that specialize in it or people that are super interested in it, and they use those services and goods, and then it becomes mainstream, and that's where it picks up traction. And usually it happens overnight, because we as a crowd and as a psychology, we like to keep the same things as our friends, right? If my friend gets this thing, I want something similar to it, right? You can think about it with Crocs, right? That wasn't a good example. And so that then leads to the growth stage, right? And you have this thing that looks like a slope or something that slopes upwards. And then you get the saturation stage where everybody's using it and it kind of tapers off at that point, and then it starts descending. And that's the question. What do you do at that point? Now, the initial and the growth stage are super easy. There's not much you have to do, right? Because you had to sustain yourself in that growth and that introduction. But once you're, saturated, now you have to reinvent yourself. And a case in point of this, of a very good example, is Starbucks. Now, everybody knows Starbucks. It came out to the market, I believe, in the 1990s. And then it just exploded in early 2000, and between 2000 to 2007, it did fantastic under the heading of CEO Howard Schultz. And then he stepped down, and guess what happens to the product? It started losing its identity, and as a result of it, it started losing market share. The stock price went down, and it was only after he came back into the picture between 2007 to 2010 that he revitalized the business. And he did a few things. He didn't do just major things. He just did the simple things, and just steering yourself in simple things could lead you down the line into much more productive areas. So what did he do? He, number one, focused on his employees. He called them partners. Number two, he got a better brand of coffee. He upped his quality. Number three, he took away all the bad chains that were not doing well. He cut his losses, basically, which is very similar to trading, right? All these concepts are very similar to trading. You're going to focus on what you're good at. You're going to cut your losses. Ones that are not trading well, you're going to, weed them out. If you made a bad investment, get out of it, okay? There's other areas to focus in. And number two, he invested in himself. He invested in his company. Now, you could use these simple hacks. It's really just simple concepts and common knowledge and common sense of just how to revitalize a business. But imagine revitalizing a business, $1 billion business, with doing the same strategies of revitalizing yourself. And that's all it is. It's using these techniques on a micro level of any one of us, of just adding quality to ourselves, putting away all the negative or all the things that we're losing money in, whether it's financial or whether it's emotional or whatever it is, and cutting our losses. And number three, keeping our partners or keeping the ones that are closest to us and adding their game and promoting them. And that's how it's done. And that's how you actually could use that to become better yourself. Thank you for joining us for this Motivational Monday. We'll see you here next week.